Hey, it's been a little while, and by a little while I mean 2 months or so, a couple months. If you don't know where I've been, I made a community post detailing some things in case you're curious. But short story is accident, and side note, if you're an irresponsible prick in the outside world, especially with a vehicle, you can go fuck yourself. Alright, let's move on. Let's see if I remember how to do one of these videos. So I just gotta press record here and... Jokes aside, on a real note, if I could just ask you guys one thing to get back into the swing of things and the algorithm and all of that, watch the whole vid, comment, like, subscribe, all that nonsense that you always hear. It actually would be really helpful in this case, considering I've missed like 2 months, so it would be very much appreciated. So I'm a little bit behind on patch notes and meta, and obviously Renegades has come out. It'll take me a little bit to catch up and start spamming and cranking through builds, especially because I have to grind for everything, but let's start with the easy one today, right? The biggest patch note going into this DLC for an exotic armor piece was, I think, in my opinion anyway, Winter's Guile. It got the biggest buff to an exotic armor piece that I think the game has ever seen. If not, it's pretty close, right? So if you don't know what Winter's Guile does now, it's gone from a completely garbage exotic to potentially the best melee exotic in the game. And that's going to be the center of today's Warlock build. So let's go over what Winter's Guile does. Does Winter's Guile do? But why does it sound weird to say it both ways? Let's talk about what Winter's Guile will do on your screen. Let's begin with the perk, Warlord Sigil. It now states, melee and finisher final blows increase your melee damage, and with maximum stacks, you gain vastly increased melee regeneration speed for a short amount of time. So first up, melee and finisher final blows. You get 1 stack for a melee kill and 3 stacks for a finisher final blow. Meaning you can do 3 finishers and a melee to get the 10 stacks, or you just get 10 melee kills. Either way works, and then when you get the 10 stacks, you will unlock Warlord's Rage. Now each stack from 1 to 9 has a timer of 4.5 seconds, and they fall off 1 at a time should you lose stacks rather than gain them, which is a nice change rather than just losing everything entirely, until you get to 10 stacks. Once you're at 10 stacks, you will unlock Warlord's Rage, and when you start using melee final blows, you will get a 10-second timer. And 2 things are going to happen. In 10 seconds, you will lose all of your stacks and you have to start from fresh. But to compensate, you're going to get a massive 500% melee damage buff to, well, your melee the whole time. So you pretty much will fry anything in your path. So like a champion, for example, boom, instantly dead. You're also getting that before mentioned dramatically increased melee regen speed, so you're pumping out melees nonstop like you're already in Prismatic when it's just doing your standard melee. Speaking of Prismatic, I am still using my Cha-Cha Slide Warlock build because it's just never let me down in a melee build for Warlock, so why would I stop now? The thing with Slide Warlocks is you were never going to take off that exotic class item because you're always just feeding yourself Syntheseps plus one of either Inmost Light or Necrotics or something along those lines, right? It was just too good and nothing would ever compare, so you wouldn't bother taking off that class item. Except Winter's Guile now kind of provides both of those things. Warlord Sigil is playing the role of Syntheseps here, except the one big difference is Warlord Sigil will max out at Warlord's Rage and give you double the damage buff amount that Syntheseps would. Synthos would give you 250 at max stacks, Warlord's Rage would give you 500. And also in Warlord's Rage, you kind of get your own Hoyle built in, where it gives you increased melee regen, which is what you want for your main stat for the build. Before talking about the kit, I just want to mention briefly the weapon section. So, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm playing catch-up, and I basically have nothing from Renegades right now that's meta. But if you do, which I imagine everyone else is far further ahead than I am, you're probably going to want to run something like the Praxic Blade in your kinetic slot rather than Mint. The Praxic Blade is a good fit for the build. It's melee-based, technically speaking, and obviously the artifact has a metric F-ton of things in it that provide you either kinetic boosts or sword boosts, so you should take advantage of that. If you don't have Praxic Blade like me for some reason, then you can run whatever, Mint, Tinashes, the blue Mint in the energy slot, whatever you want. Moving on, first thing is a super. So I have Song of Flame specifically because of endgame content. Song of Flame is a great versatile pick for survivability and support. You can just become a tank and become pretty much unkillable whenever you want if you're in a pinch, or you can use it offensively with the snap specifically to stagger targets non-stop, either just killing them that way or staggering them to the point where your teammates can just shoot them with their weapons without fearing of getting hit whatsoever. I did want to mention though, there is an artifact mod called Gravitic Voltaic Charge. which states if you have an arc or a void super equipped, you can increase the maximum number of stacks for your armor charges by 1. So if you play a build that synergizes around that, for example, spamming special finisher, then you might want to switch to one of those supers if you want to keep your charges up for longer and much more smoother. For my abilities, in the class ability slot, you can go with either Phoenix Dive, which I personally prefer, although I might change it if I play around with Rifts some more, given the new changes recently. Speaking of Rifts, you can opt to go with Healing Rift as well instead if you want to use that new mechanic where you can pop Rifts while moving and still not being just stuck in animation for 3 hours like you used to prior to Renegades. Player preference and all that. In my melee slot, it's of course still the #1 pick. That's going to be Arcane Needle. It gives you 3 charges for your melee. It's perfect for you to spam your slide. No other melee really comes close. And then in the grenade slot, I am going with Cold Snap Grenade this time around. Usually I go with Vortex Grenade, but this season specifically, you can benefit from both having a Stasis Grenade to give you that darkness meter to get to your Prismatic faster, but also in the artifact, there is a mod called Singularity Blade, which states while you have a Void Elemental buff, melee and sword hits weaken targets. So, this build that we're going to be using has built-in Devour that you get instantly non-stop, which means you will always, always, always have a Void Elemental buff on you, which means you will proc this every time you get a melee kill or even hit something with a melee, which means they'll always be weakened. So there's no point in me running a Vortex Grenade for weaken. Speaking of Devour, the aspects. So first is going to be Feed the Void, which gives us Devour. When we get any ability kill, we instantly get Devour, which heals us and also replenishes our grenade energy. Basically, your first slide is going to give you Devour, and you're going to keep that Devour for the rest of the activity until either the enemies are gone or you happen to somehow jump off a cliff and die. And our other aspect is the engine of the build, of course. It's Lightning Surge, which allows us to slide around and melee enemies non-stop, jolting them and giving us bolt charge stacks. And again, there is an artifact to play off of this as well called Dielectric, which says defeating arc debuff targets grants bolt charge, rapidly defeating arc debuff targets spawns an aura of power, and heals a small portion of your health, because, you know, Devour wasn't already enough. As for my fragments, we have 5 of them. Here they are from left to right. First up, we have Facet of Dawn. This is here to provide us with Radiant every time that we get a melee kill, which, you know, is going to be our entire existence. Well, technically, it's melee hits, but we're just going to kill everything we ever touch with a melee, so I might as well just say kill now. Next is Facet of Courage, which gives us a damage increase to our Arc, Solar, and Void abilities, and keep in mind that for melees in these elements, you get a 50% damage increase rather than the standard 10% that you would for like damage rotations on bosses. There's a few ways to proc this as well. First, we have our Arcane Needle and our Cold Snaps. Both are Darkness Affinity. We have Strand and Stasis, so both would work for this, as well as our Heavy. In this case, it would be a Stasis Sword, which we can use to freeze a target, which would then give us a Darkness debuff on them. Should we try to utilize it for that matter anyway. But I typically just use it for Eager Edge, or in the small chance that I want to debuff an enemy. Third is going to be Facet of Sacrifice. While you have an Arc, Solar, or Void buff, ability foundables grant bonus Darkness Transcendent Energy. So, Arc, we have Amplified, Solar, we have Radiant, and Void, we have Devour. All of these get basically instantly applied when we just use one melee, so you will basically always have some sort of elemental buff on you, which means you can take advantage of Sacrifice every single time that you do a melee to get that bonus Darkness energy and not have to rely on using your Cold Snap and your sword to get your Darkness meter quickly. Number 4 is Facet of Balance. Rapidly defeating targets with light damage grants melee energy. So, as you're frying everything with your melee, you're also recouping some of the cost of using that melee and getting some energy back every time that you use your melees. Think of it as like you start with 3 melees, and by using your 3 melees, you get 1 back. It's like a buy 3, get 1 free kind of deal. And our last fragment is going to be the staple Facet of Protection. When you're surrounded by combatants, which this build is entirely based on, you are more resistant to incoming damage, and while Transcendent, the effect is also increased. So, free DR, off rip. And finally, we have the mod screen. I will have a dim link down below in the description in case you want to copy the build, but for people that want to see on video what the mods are, here we go. Real quick lightning round. Helmet, we got 1 copy of Hands On to give me bonus super energy on melee kills, 1 copy of Social Ammo Finder for my Mint or my Practical Blade if I got the upgrades for one, and then 1 copy of Heavy Ammo Scout just for bonus ammo when I'm playing with the team. My gloves, my Winter's Guile, I have 2 copies of Melee Font because I want to pump my melee stat, which I'll go over in a second here with the rest of my stats, and then I have nothing else to put here, so I put Fastball. In my chest, it's 2 copies of Resist, depending on whatever activity I'm doing, and then 1 copy of Strand Ammo Generation, but this is specifically because I'm currently using Mint. I would swap this out for whatever fits you for your setup with what weapon you're using. In boots, I got 1 copy of Absolution to reduce all ability cooldowns when I get an orb. Recuperation to replenish health when I pick up an orb, just in case, you know, Devour's not doing the job, and the mod and the artifact. And then 1 copy of Strand Weapon Surge, again, because I'm using Mint currently. And for class item, 1 copy of Distribution to reduce all ability cooldowns when using my class ability near targets. 1 copy of Powerful Attraction to scoop up orbs when I use my class ability. And then 1 copy of Special Affinity in the event that I want more Mint ammo, or, in your case, Practic Blade. And here is my current stat breakdown for the build. So the main stat we're worrying about is, of course, going to be melee. I have mine at 160 because of the 2 font mods in my gloves, which would give me 200 total once I get an Orb of Power for an armor charge. The rest of your stats don't matter too much, though I wouldn't just leave them hanging on anything other than health. Health is completely useless, so just keep that as low as you can. I have my super at 100 for Song of Flame just to get it as fast as I can. I have my grenade at 85. Pretty decent to get my grenade back quickly, plus I have Devour for this build anyway. Class ability, same thing, a decent amount to get it back fairly quick, but not like anything crazy. And then my weapon stat at 81 as well. And for armor sets, in case anybody's curious, I have a gunner piece on my helmet here. I have Winter's Guile, of course, with 20 melee and then a mod in it to make it 30. But the overall is, you know, garbage because we don't have tiered exotics yet. Paragon on my chest, Paragon on my boots, and then we have Gunner on my class item. And that's the build. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sure some of you have already been using Winter's Guile on Warlocks already, so let me know how that has fared for you in the comments. And let me know what you want to see next. There's many things I want to try out, but I only have 2 hands and so much time. Hopefully I get to everything soon. In the meantime, if you did enjoy the video or the build, please consider subscribing today. It does help the channel grow, and is much appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, you can leave a like and or a comment below as well. If you don't know what to leave as a comment, you could leave Renegades as the comment. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.